You won't believe what might be about to happen with the Toronto Maple Leafs. The management is facing a decision that could change everything. Is it worth sacrificing the franchise's future to make a big trade and take a shot at the playoffs? Or is it better to keep the roster intact and risk another disappointment? The pressure is immense, and a surprising name has emerged as the primary target. But there's a huge obstacle in the way. The Toronto Maple Leafs have reached the top of the Atlantic Division, but that has only increased the responsibility on general manager Brad Treliving. Since taking over, he has been cautious about sacrificing valuable assets for short-term reinforcements. But now, with the NHL more balanced than ever and the team showing signs that it can compete for the title, could he change his mind? The big dilemma is that Mitch Marner and John Tavares are entering the final year of their contracts. If the Leafs fail to make a deep run this season, they could lose two of their biggest names without any return. That makes this perhaps the last real chance to go all in for the long-awaited Stanley Cup. The team's needs are clear. The Leafs need a defensively solid center who can relieve pressure on Tavares and Matthews and bring more balance to the team in the playoffs. This search is not new. During the offseason, the team considered names like Chandler Stevenson but never managed to close a deal. They even tried to turn Max Domi or William Nylander into viable options for this role, but the experiment failed. To make matters worse, the defense is also in trouble. The absence of Yanni Hakanpää due to knee issues has further exposed the team's lack of depth. At the start of the season, the Leafs believed Connor Timmins could be an important piece on defense, but his performance declined as the games went on. Now, with the trade deadline approaching, a strong name has emerged as a possible solution for the team. Brayden Schenn, captain of the St. Louis Blues. Schenn is an experienced veteran, a Stanley Cup champion, with a physical game and leadership that would fit perfectly with the Leafs roster. But here's the problem. He has a full no-trade clause and 3 more years left on his contract with a cap hit of $6.5 million per season. And even though the Blues are listening to offers, the price to acquire him won't be cheap. Rumors indicate that Toronto would need to send a package that includes a first-round pick and one of its 3 top prospects, Easton Cowan, Fraser Minton, or Ben Danford, and possibly another piece, such as Nikita Grabenkin. That's not even considering that St. Louis might require Toronto to take on part of Schenn's contract or involve a third team to facilitate the deal. But is it worth giving up so much for a 33-year-old player? Schenn would certainly make the team more competitive, but he's not the only name on the Leafs' radar. Another player who could be a more affordable option is Scott Laughton of the Philadelphia Flyers. He is under contract until 2025-26 for a much lower cap hit, $3 million per season. He doesn't have the same impact as Schenn, but he's a versatile player who can play in the bottom 6 and still contribute defensively and on the penalty kill. The problem? The Flyers initially asked for a first-round pick for him, which might be too high a price for the Leafs. If Toronto decides to look for even cheaper options, players like Nick Bjugstad from the Utah Hockey Club and Jake Evans from the Montreal Canadiens are also being considered. They would be lower impact additions, but could help provide more depth to the roster. Meanwhile, the defense remains a huge concern. If the Leafs really want to strengthen this area, they might consider a more aggressive move. An interesting name is Luke Schenn, Brayden Schenn's brother. He has already played in Toronto before and could be an important piece for the defense, in addition to potentially helping with negotiations for his brother. But what if the Leafs decide to make an even bigger move? They could target a high-impact defenseman like Rasmus Andersson from the Calgary Flames or Colton Parayko from the St. Louis Blues. These would be extremely complicated and expensive deals, but they could significantly transform the team's defense. The key point is that the Leafs have moved past the stage of simply accumulating good regular seasons. They need to prove they can be competitive in the playoffs, and the decision on who to bring in or not bring in before March 7th could define the franchise's future. And now, the big question. Do you think Toronto should go all in to acquire Brayden Schenn, even if it means giving up young talent and draft picks? Or should the team look for cheaper reinforcements and maintain a balance between the present and the future? Leave your opinion in the comments, because this debate is heating up. And if you want to stay updated on the latest rumors and possible trades before the deadline, click on the next video now, because there's a lot happening behind the scenes in the NHL.